Hey everybody, fams, welcome back to the Convo Couch. I am Fiorella Isabel, and I'm here with Jonny Sue, and he's going to be not just on the ones and twos today. He's double whammying, double shifting. He's going to also be talking about some Robert Fuller footage he got. We have a very important show. It took us some time to get it all together. That's why it's late. So please join us, and thank you for joining us on YouTube, ROKFIN, and Twitter. So, fam, let's get started.
Yes.
Okay.
Let us get started.
So, unfortunately, there has been a recent shooting, again, by police at an unarmed person. This Latino man was shot by the LAPD, and protests have ignited. This is 18-year-old Andres Guardado in LA. Now, the Alex Villanueva, who's the current sheriff, hasn't explained what prompted exactly the shooting involved with Andres, and this happened in Gardena, which is in southwest LA, and they gave some updates, but officials just said that Andres Guardado was armed. They said he was actually armed with an illegal handgun and was not wearing a uniform identifying him as a security guard. But their failure to explain what actually led to the shooting has infuriated protesters who on Sunday said they are concerned the shooting was unjustified and demanded more answers from authorities. They carried signs that read "Justice for Andres." Among those people was Edith Abarca, Guardado's aunt. She had an El Salvador flag wrapped around herself, reflecting the country and her family fled because of war, which, by the way, war we caused.
And we mean the military industrial complex and the CIA.
Exactly.
And Obama.
And those, yeah, exactly. All those neoliberals. And what I was reading too before was that a lot of these people were saying that Andres did not have a weapon, that Andres never carried a handgun like that. Even though he was a security guard, he didn't have one. So there's conflicting accounts whether he had a gun or not. We see this when it comes to police shootings. There's always automatically supposedly a weapon these people have. But they, like I said, they haven't really answered as to how this happened.
Wow, he was 18?
18 years old. Alex Villanueva told reporters that investigators were still gathering evidence, though he didn't say which deputy shot Guardado yet. So, he promised a thorough investigation, and this happened at about 6 p.m. last Thursday following a confrontation with the deputies at 420 West Redondo Beach Boulevard. And he had been chatting with someone in a car that was blocking the location when deputies from the Compton Sheriff's Station pulled up, and he fled holding a gun with two deputies chasing him on foot. One of the deputies confronted him and opened fire, striking him in the upper torso, he said. Authorities said they do not know whether Guardado had pointed his weapon at the deputy. He was shot 6 times, and he was pronounced dead at the scene. So, again, even if he had a gun, you guys, even if he had a gun, what happened to what Joe Biden said? Shoot him in the leg. Just shoot him in the leg. Because, I mean, why are we shooting somebody 6 times?
Because they're scared.
They're
cowards with guns who have authority, and
yeah,
it's bullshit. It's bullshit. That shooting somebody should be the
absolute last resort.
You have tasers.
Yeah, you have tasers. I mean, if he fled. Here's the thing,
and
though.
We have the ability to even create weapons that doesn't kill people. You know,
yeah,
a rifle taser. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's the thing. You don't have to shoot the guy 6 times. If you shoot him once in a place where it's not lethal, he's gonna stop. I'm not even advocating they shoot people, but I'm saying if you're that scared and you're trying to stop the guy, maybe don't shoot him 6 times. And the whole thing about fearing for your life, though, we have one guy that's by himself and is fleeing because what have we been seeing this whole time? We've been seeing brown people and black people get shot by the police, and not just those people. Now everybody's getting shot at by the police, every color.
Minorities,
so
all minorities,
and it's poor people too. And so obviously, when I don't know about you guys, but when I see the police, I don't get a sense of security. I get a sense of more panic. And I can only imagine that panic is exponential the more brown and poor and more issues you have on your criminal background. I can imagine it gets big and big and big because you're so scared. Because now when you see a cop, it's like getting PTSD. And I'm not minimizing that. It's like, wow, oh my God, like what's going to happen? Oh my God. And that shouldn't be what we feel when we see law enforcement. So,
and we never even talk about it, but basically, like, it's like when there's like ever problems, right? The thought comes to our head after dealing with police, should we even call the police?
Right.
Because there's more problems that arise from calling the police.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
And that's not how it should be. That's not how.
No. That's not protecting and serving. That's imposing fear through authority and power. So what happened was that protesters ignited, of course, and there was a march for this man, and this was in Compton. Compton is nearby Gardena, and this happened last night, and the family members were there gathering to commemorate him and calling for justice. And then, of course, there was a 3.8-mile trek into Compton.
The sheriff's station in Compton.
So exactly. So they were walking through to the sheriff's station. And so then that's when the tensions broke out. And that's when it boiled over. There was a large group of deputies who called for backup. I'm sure they were scared too. And so that many of the protesters fled, and they were tear gas, and they had rubber bullets hit them. And that was right in front of the steps of the sheriff's office. So let's have a look at a little video that we found on Instagram.
Yes, and the man who posted it is Yakuza. It looks like he was actually on the ground. This guy actually had drone footage of the Black Lives Matter march in West Hollywood, which is really nice. Mm-hmm. So you guys check that guy out.
Really slow breaths. I'm right here. Okay? I'm right between you and them. They can't hit you.
The same thing on you, okay? This is gonna hopefully spray them out. It's gonna be a little force. Blink if you can. Blink if you can. Other side, other side. Tilt your head to the side a little bit. There you go. Now other side. Blink if you can. Blink if you can. Feeling better?
Okay. So
fam, yeah, you see this. They're literally not doing anything. No. They're on the other side of the fence, and they just start shooting.
Yeah. Like I said, nothing gets violent until the police are involved. I mean, we've seen this whole time. The police backed off because they were forced to by many people who were suing them, and the looting stopped. Like, all of these things stopped because of, like, it was when the police inciting this. It was the police inciting this sort of back and forth violence. And now we're seeing it with this. And by the way, the coroner said that the autopsy is pending. And the police claim that there was a .40 caliber semi-automatic pistol with no serial number and an illegal extended magazine loaded with 13 rounds that was discovered at the scene, according to Wegener, who was talking to CNN. And they also said that they told CNN that Guardado's cousin, whose name is Steve Abarca, said that he never knew him to have any sort of gun. So again, we're seeing the different reports. The police are saying he had a gun and there was a gun found at the scene, but his family members are saying that he never had a gun. And so he was also not wearing a uniform and not legal age to work as an armed security guard in the state of California. So there might be something to that as well. But yeah, they're still determining if there's any video footage. So fam, maybe we need to go find some video footage.
Down there,
yeah, exactly. Again, this was a kid. I mean, this is a child, 18 years old.
18, God.
And so that's going on right now. No, protests aren't going to stop anytime soon. And then, of course, the FBI quickly got involved, which is interesting, by the way, that they quickly got involved in this because they're investigating the news found in the NASCAR driver Bubba Wallace's garage at Talladega. Now, we know that NASCAR is a sport that's generally followed by a lot of white people. We know we're from Florida, Daytona Beach.
Daytona 500.
Yeah, it's a big thing.
Fam, before actually Confederate flags were allowed to fly, but because of the protests, they actually banned those Confederate flags, which is great. But still, it
didn't sit well with a lot of
NASCAR people. There's a lot of them who had those flags.
I mean, growing up in Florida, Confederate flags were a common thing you'd see, especially in Central Florida. Definitely see those everywhere. I didn't really ever think, I considered it like, why is this, a thing? But like, it never really affected me that way. Obviously, that is a privileged point of view to have grown up with. But it definitely, I definitely see how it, like, as I got older and became more involved in activism, I definitely started seeing how, like, why it's so offensive to people, because it did signify slavery. I don't put that much input into flags because even the American flag, I really don't care about patriotism like that, but a lot of these people do, and I think that definitely had a lot to do with that. But I still think it's kind of crazy, a noose with everything that's happening with all the lynchings or the hangings.
It seems like it's like a plan, coordination. I don't know what is going on. I think, although we don't criticize Trump a lot in this show, it must go with saying that Trump has definitely
he's exacerbated.
He's provoked his crowd in a way.
He's empowered them to feel like they can be outright racist. And I think Trump manipulates this. I think he's a businessman. He's a con man. He manipulates things. I don't even think he believes in half of the shit he says, but I think he incites that in his base. And I think his base is more dangerous than he is. And I
Absolutely.
I just think like that empowerment of, because you can even go back to Hitler, like all these people, they started believing in that. And that's what the problem is. I mean, we can't dismiss the danger of that. I think the neoliberals more so focus on how stupid he says, or the stupid things he says, or the things he tweets and all this other garbage, but they're not really focused on the effects of what it does to people and like their ability to feel like they can just be blatantly like racist because they feel empowered. So again, the FBI is still investigating this, and they said, quote, "As we have stated unequivocally, there is no place for racism in NASCAR, and this act only strengthens our resolve to make the sport open and welcoming to all." So because again, this is obviously as a result of NASCAR banning the Confederate flag at its events. So
yeah, I mean, and this Bubba guy, is he white or is he black? Or I think he was white.
He has a son of a black mother and a white father.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's mixed.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
See. Yes, for sure.
So yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty awful because I mean he's half black and he's still participating in a sport, and
there he is.
Yeah. I think that's pretty awful. I don't know, like, I mean, I think I still believe that the majority of people in the United States are past this. But I do think like there's a small segment that is really loud and that is really like pushing this. And there are a lot of people who just don't do enough to talk about it. And I think that's also a problem.
So here's something important that they point out, fam. It says that Wallace wore an "I Can't Breathe" shirt at a previous race to protest racial injustice following the police murder of George Floyd. So he was in support of Black Lives Matter, and then this noose shows up in his garage.
Kind of like, don't do that.
Like a threat.
Yeah. Because I'm sure he may not have been as vocal before, right? Like, I think this has made also a lot of people on the Democratic side and on the left, vocal I think a lot of people, felt like we were 100% past this, and then they realize, oh, we're not. And so they become a lot more vocal. So interesting. But I guess we'll keep you guys posted because they're still investigating that. I still find it interesting that the FBI was involved. Is that because it's like NASCAR?
Yeah, so they give more attention to NASCAR, just like how somehow now the NBA is going to have these rings that detect COVID-19. It's a privilege. It's a privilege thing. Because there's so much money involved in NASCAR and in NBA.
Right.
Why aren't they giving those rings to nurses and stuff? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and also why is the FBI involved in a noose? It's symbolic. It sucks. It's awful. But look what's happening in California. Look how many people have died in the last few weeks, right? We have a guy in Victorville, a guy in Palmdale, a kid here in Gardena. Why that's like a lot of people to be shot by police or to be dying in really weird circumstances. Shouldn't the FBI be involved when there's an actual lynching over when there's just a symbolic aspect of it,
Well, that's what we're about to talk about, fam.
Yeah.
Because guess what? There is new footage that we were able to obtain, and this is insane, fam. So basically, okay, so Robert Fuller.
Yeah.
I had gone up to Palmdale with Tina Desiree Berg, who is a fantastic reporter, and you guys should follow her on ROKFIN and everything else. And since you guys weren't able to make it, you were at a protest. There was Pasta was in Palm Desert, and I helped grab some footage from the area. So let's take a look at some of this footage here that I got. Let me find the footage here. So we can see here the amount of people that were that showed up Saturday. Saturday I was there. Saturday the 13th of June. I was there, and I helped record a lot of this footage. There was a lot of people, hundreds, maybe almost 1,000 people in the City Hall of Palmdale. So that was on Saturday the 13th of June, where hundreds of people gathered, and we can see the vast amounts of people there. We'll go to the memorial at the tree, where people started a memorial there to commemorate Robert Fuller. And, there's flowers and candles, and eventually people put down signs, justice for Robert Fuller. We need to keep asking questions, things like that. Eventually that Saturday, the protesters decided to march around Palmdale town. And you can see here that the police showed up in their full riot gear, which is ridiculous because literally they're just marching. They're literally just marching and yelling. No one was looting. There was no looting that was done that day. Yeah. And there's the police, the sheriff's department.
It's a SWAT, yeah.
LA Sheriff's Department, Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. And this is like almost towards the outskirts of LA County, so
yeah, this is really north. It's like an hour away from where we're at.
Yeah, so we're in Pasadena.
And we're closer than other places.
It's about an hour away, 60 miles away from Pasadena, and it's still LA Sheriff's Department there. And they didn't want the protesters to disrupt traffic, right? So they just they came out there in their riot gear, and eventually the crowd moved away from the street, and then they left. So that was good. So nothing too violent happened there. And basically that Saturday, we see the courage of people still asking for questions, They continue to ask, for answers. They continue to ask for answers. And you can see this lady here. This is near the end of the protest where she was still right there with a sign, "We need answers. We need answers."
Yeah.
And so that was all Saturday. And me and Tina, we went back multiple times. On Wednesday, the 17th, we had gone back and spoken to various shops. store owners that surrounded the area.
Yeah.
So
Because it was weird the whole time that the police never asked for the tapes from the store owners.
in the previous show, I believe it was the 17th or the day after or whatever. I had mentioned how Palmdale, I think it was the sheriff's or Twitter or whatever, they tweeted out the day after Robert Fuller's death about a dog, and then it's like, why aren't you not asking for footage for Robert Fuller's death? It's
exactly,
they first admitted it was a suicide, and no one's buying that shit because what black man is going to hang himself in that manner? So here we are in Palmdale. So I want to take y'all to the street view. We're going to see it here. Okay, so here's Palmdale. All right. This is City Hall where everything happened, right?
Mm.
Okay. So this is the tree that the memorial was at. This is the City Hall right here. This is City Hall. This is the Chamber of Commerce or something. Okay, and then here's some stores. The store here is a cafe. There's a cafe here. There's a weird store here that has no name. There's no business here. It looks like it's closed. There's a photography shop here. And let me tell you that there are cameras at various locations, but none that directly show a direct view at the park. They do, however, show virtually all the ways that someone could take to get to the area where Robert Fuller was lynched.
Mm-hmm.
So let me show you here on the map. So there was a camera here. This is a photography store. There was a camera here at this sketchy shop here that was next to the cafe.
Mm-hmm.
And that one kind of points this way. So you can't really see because the tree is directly, so this camera points this way, and the tree's right here. So maybe there was something there. And then there's the fire department here. There's an insurance attorney guy here. There's no cameras there with the fire department, which I was surprised about. And then there's his apartments over here. So there's a camera on this corner of the building that aims towards this way, towards the park. So maybe there's something there. And it was high up on the building. There's another camera here that aims towards the gate. So you could see a car coming down this way. If there was a car coming down this way and then turned into maybe there's parking spaces right here. There's parking spaces right here. They could have parked right there and then gone to the tree right there. Who knows? They could have parked over here. There's these apartments that have cameras. So, the one here next to the cafe has the perspective of the parking lot and towards the water fountain. Not really towards the tree, really. But again, it can show pretty close of someone walking by there or a car license plate, perhaps. To no avail were we able to get footage from the store. In fact, when I knocked on the store, I didn't realize it at the time, but someone was in there, and she totally ignored us. So let me show you this clip real quick. Right here. So here's the cafe, which is right next to it. Any cameras anywhere? No cameras in the cafe.
Yeah, but see, here's this one right here.
And then look at that camera.
It's a ring. Will you knock on the door and see if there's anyone in there?
It's just an office. What kind of office is this?
I don't know.
Has that been there that whole time?
Yeah, I got photos of it on Saturday.
Really?
Yeah.
So me being me, I try to, it's really dark. They have something dark. And I try to get with the camera, and you can see there's somebody in there. I had no idea. There's somebody in there. So they totally ignored us.
Oh, yeah.
They totally ignored us.
Do you think people are scared of the police? Because that's what I mean. I also we're gonna show. I interviewed some people, but one person. But I've talked to a few people who lived in that area, Palmdale, Lancaster. There's a lot of tension between the community and the police. There's a lot of It's really, a lot of people say that they have seen a lot of white supremacist people in the area, that the police are heavily tied to racist people. There's rumors, there's all these things that are going on, and a lot of these people, I'm sure, don't want any trouble with the police.
From the people that I spoke to there, they weren't aware of the Peckerwoods.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere we asked, they weren't really aware of the Peckerwoods.
Yeah, that's a specific name, though.
Yeah, it is specific.
Yeah,
and then
I wasn't even aware.
I don't know. Yeah, so
for a while.
If there was anything about that, it looks like they're doing it pretty secretly. So one of the store owners I will show here, this corner store. Let me see if I can pull it up here on the map. So there's a park. That's the tree right there. Mm-hmm. This corner store right here, they had a camera, and it's a photography store / they share the corner store with their son who does photography. Really nice, really great couple, family. Let's see when they say the police showed up to their store. They actually allowed us to speak to them, so let's see when they say that the police showed up to the store.
Me dijo mi hijo que parece que habían venido los detectives para que iban a traerles un chip porque mi hijo no tiene otro. Parece que iban a traer un chip, no sé si para grabar esto, no sé, pero mi hijo dijo que ya habían venido los detectives, creo.
¿Y cuándo vinieron? ¿Era cuando pasó, el día que pasó, o era...?
No, mucho después.
¿Mucho después?
Apenas, o sea...
3 días, 4 días?
Póngale 4 días más o menos.
¿Esta cámara firma de 24 horas así o se queda todo?
Me imagino que sí, porque luego cuando nosotros nos vamos, mi hijo dice que dejemos todo, pero mi hijo es el que más le puede dar más información porque él es el de aquí.
Ok. No es tanto distancia, pero de repente se puede ver un carro que viene aquí.
Exacto.
Por ahí.
No sé si...
So that was a direct view. That was the live view of the camera. So yeah, he said 3 or 4 days. Let's continue.
Le pasó esto del pobre muchacho, ¿no es donde están los globos en el árbol ese?
Sí, en ese árbol. So no se puede ver el muchacho, pero se puede ver los carros que vienen.
Exacto, entonces, si dicen que fue como a las 3 de la mañana, si eso pasó por aquí, si hay un carro o algo que pasó por aquí, ahí empieza, ¿no?
Sí. Yeah. ¿Cómo no pueden los policías venir el primer día? 3, 4 días.
¿4 días?
Que vinieron, parece que sí. No estoy muy seguro.
So, yeah, I mean, even
yeah.
that gentleman couldn't even believe that it took them that long to get to the footage.
That's and then they had it took them that long to ask questions, but right away they decided it was a suicide. It's two conflicting things.
Exactly.
How do you decide it's a suicide right away without a full autopsy? But yet you think it's not important to talk to the businesses that with the cameras to get the actual, the full story of what might have happened.
And so after various days of communication between myself and the son, he granted us access to the footage. And here's some things to know before I show this footage. The camera records only when there's movement in front of it. During nighttime, this camera is not really good, and that goes to like all cameras. They all lose quality when there's low light, since light is primarily how cameras work, and how our eyes work. We take the light that reflects off everything, right? Physics 101. Except our eyes are better, So here's my analysis of the footage. Okay, we're gonna go through it, and you're gonna have to bear with me because they were WMV files, so it's actually really it's hard to play on a Mac. So here's what we're gonna do. So this one, which was at 10:04 p.m. This was 10:04 p.m. and we can see a car pull into the lot. So it's an SUV type car that pulls into the lot. So that's what happened at 10:04 p.m. Now let's go to the next one that I have on the list, or that made the important list, that made the useful list, which was right here. This one is at 10:24 p.m. on June 9th. It looks like a different car actually pulled into the lot.
A different day or the same day?
The same day,
Okay.
20 minutes later. It looks like a different car pulled in from the left side here. And then you see a person walk. Well, it looks like he was running, jogging. Let me replay that one for you guys. So there's a car. I know. There's let me do it slowly.
I see.
Okay, I want you to watch over here, okay? Watch over here. And we also see someone running from right to the left. Could they have been going on a jog? Perhaps. But he was 100% running. The camera does not film slowly or quickly. It's real time. So let's watch this. There they are. Right there. Following my mouse. There's a person that's running across the street. So then the camera cuts out. And that was at 10:24 and 39 seconds. And
that actually, I run. That looks like a fast run.
Yeah.
To me, just like because when you're jogging. It looks, I don't know, maybe it looks really fast. For
yeah.
a jog,
well, a car pulls in, and well, who knows? They could just be, jogging. They could be going for a jog.
Yeah.
At 10:24 p.m. So then the next one, which was right after, I just had seen this one. This is I just noticed this one. This one is kind of crazy. Now, someone is walking in the background, and you also see the red light from the previous car in the last clip, in between the flags. So, pay attention to this. Okay. You see the red light here, and then there it is. Someone's walking right there. It's really slow. It's really fast, but someone is walking at the very end.
Did you show it?
Yeah, I did show it. Oh, I did not show it.
My bad. Okay,
My bad.
like,
it was on Fiorella.
Like,
okay, I'm gonna show it again here. Sorry about that, guys. It's weird because
he's talking and doing
that, and then also these files were annoying, and so here I'm gonna show you again. So the red light there, you saw it right here. There's a red light of the car because this is directly right after the last one where that car pulled in from the left. Mm-hmm. And then if we pay attention, right there, someone is walking across it. You can barely see it. It's really hard to see. Someone is walking into the park at 10:25. Fuck.
And this is the day of.
This is the night of, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is June 9th, and then the hanging got called in at the 10th.
Okay.
So we see a car.
Is there anything open that would have been open at that time for these cars to be there?
Around City Hall? No. There's no way. Let me pull up this next one. This one is at 10:49 and 4 seconds. And what I saw in this one. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say what I saw, and then we'll look at it. So we see a car coming from the direction of City Hall and pull in next to this other car that's parked right there. And then we also see someone walk by directly in front of the camera. And they could just be walking home. So let's just see what this looks like. So there's the car pulling into the lot. And then there's someone walking by there. It looks like they actually crossed the street. But yes, there's a car that pulls in.
I see. The
next clip right after that one, which is at 10:50 p.m. with 54 seconds. So a minute later. Or like 30 seconds later, we see the car that is parked is unlocked, I believe, which is what the yellow light is. So perhaps someone left their car there and went somewhere and then came back late to pick it up, right? We leave our cars in places. Or the car was involved somehow. So let's just take a look at this. So you see the yellow light. I think it got unlocked. And then, so yeah, that car pulled up to. We'll take that person to that car. Now, the next one says, we see both cars pull out. The car that drove them waits for the first one to leave. So basically, here it is 10:51 p.m., so a minute later. And we see both of these cars pulling out. And the car that dropped off the person who got into that car is waiting. And we see it's like kind of like an SUV.
That, like, what are they in front of right now? They're in front of the park?
So the park is over here, and then the stores are over here. The cafe is like over here. This corner store is nothing. There's like, it has no business. There was no business. I'll show you on this map, actually. So if the camera's here, it's aiming this way. Aiming this way. So then the car was parked there. It looks like Ark of Salvation Church. It's church. Okay. It looks like it's a church. I didn't know that was a church. But yeah, here's the sketchy business, and then this is the cafe right here. So it's this camera from this photography store is aiming this way, and we can see just a small field of view here, and that's how we saw. That's what we saw there. So let me pull up the next one. What do you think about this all, fam, so far?
It's just really weird to me that people are there late, especially in this town that's pretty, like, it's not the most populated area. It's a very suburban area. If all the businesses are closed, it's super late. The most I can think you'd be doing is going to a park and jogging. I also think it would involve, if you were going to frame somebody as a suicide, and if you were a cop or if you were involved in any sort of way, you wouldn't go with a, you'd need to have a big car like an SUV, and you wouldn't go with a police marked car. You'd go with a car that's normal, and you'd also need help. I don't think one person could do this if they were framing something, right?
No.
So you would need a lot of room to transport a body, because a lot of people were saying that his body, the way it was positioned, looked like it was just put there. And so if I'm seeing an SUV and another car and all this interaction, I don't know. I'm just really suspect that it's anything innocent, because it's COVID. Like, still, people, like, these businesses aren't open. What are you doing over there at that time? At the very least,
yes.
I would have tried to look at that and try to interview these people and say, what were you doing at this hour on June 9th at
Exactly.
10:24?
Okay,
right?
so that's a good point, fam. It's COVID. And when we went there and we were trying to find food and stuff, there's a lot of businesses that are closed still from COVID. Like, this is in the outskirts of LA. LA's starting to open back up. These businesses were closed, and a lot of them were still operating under COVID procedures, which is basically, mask, only drive-through, nothing inside.
Right.
Nothing was inside.
And if things close like at 9 or 10 here, over there, I'm assuming they're closing way earlier than that.
Exactly. And this is like the middle of nowhere. It's like the desert.
Yeah.
Okay. So this next one was really interesting also, because it's another figure walking in the park. And I will zoom in for you, but it's really hard to see. And this is at 12:24 p.m. So now it is June 10th, midnight,
right.
12:24 p.m. So it's the same day, same night, but it's 12:24. So let's look at this, and it's the figures up here. So after this car passes, you just see a shadow over there. You just see a shadow. So it's really hard to see. Let me pull it up again. It's really hard to see. But Tina says I got eagle eyes. So there's a shadow. There's a shadow. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit more.
Yeah.
For you guys. Okay, I'm going to zoom in as much as I can here. Sorry, this footage is like really, really... they were in WMV files, so Mac does not support it. So here I'm going to zoom in. Right here, you got to look, okay? There's a shadow there. There's a shadow. Boom, I just followed it. It's really hard to catch. I'm sure the police did not catch that. It doesn't say anything. It just says that there's someone there at 12:24, and then the figure we saw earlier, it also says that there's somebody there at whatever.
Yeah.
What was it?
10:20 something or.
Yeah, it was
shortly
10:25. Throughout the whole footage, just like a lot of cars that were driving by, which is interesting during COVID, and the fact that it's City Hall. I'm not sure if this is a busy street.
I guess people can go to church late if there's something going on there.
Usually that's not what happens.
I don't even know if church is open.
Exactly, churches aren't open that late. So let me pull up this next one. What did I say about this next one? This next one is so it's 1:07 a.m. Another person walking in front of the store. A passerby, I think, since they went off to the right. So let's watch this really quick. I just included this because I wanted to document every time someone passes, every time there's a person. So I basically documented every time there was a person that I could see. So that was another one. I think that person was involved. It looked like an old lady to me.
Yeah.
This next one, it says sirens from the fire trucks arriving. So this is 3:27. This is 3:24 a.m. when supposedly the fire department got the call.
So how did they get the call?
That's what I'm saying. So when did they get the call? When did that person see it? Like, who drove by and saw that? Like, that's what I'm saying.
Because that's the timeline is like soon. It could have happened between that time. That was a short amount of time. You're starting to see something between 10:24 and 3 o'clock. So it probably happened sometime in between there and sometime before they even saw it.
And in between all that, fam, which I didn't include in this, I see the cars. They look really like it's hard to distinguish in detail the car.
Yeah.
There's a certain car that has the red brake light that goes across, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I saw this same car just driving by multiple times throughout the whole night. So maybe that could have been someone who helped and then was driving people to see it. I don't know. This is me reaching.
Mm-hmm.
Is not with factual evidence, although I feel like I did see the same car driving by multiple times. That is the footage I saw that I thought was really useful. I am in contact with the person who released it to see if we can release all the footage to the public, but we are not sure yet, and I will update you guys when that happens.
Yeah, because the public should really have a right to know all of this and see all of this for themselves.
So what do you think about all this, fam? I mean, it's kind of ridiculous that it took them this long to even get the footage.
It's ridiculous it took them this long to get the footage. I think it's ridiculous that not more people are coming forward and saying, hey, here's some footage. You tried talking to somebody else. I also think that there's a lot of activity for that time of night. And even way after 10 o'clock, we're talking about 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, even people just, too many cars. And then all of a sudden you have this body. Whatever happened somewhere in between there. Whatever happened somewhere in between there. If I was going to commit suicide in the middle of the night, and no, I think I would make sure it was a place that was completely secluded. This seems like a place that's not even that secluded. The fact that there were so many cars driving by to me just signals that there was multiple people involved in this. I think.
I think so too. I think it was a planned, coordinated effort. And I think the most damning one was this one that I just saw today that I didn't even realize. When the car pulls in from the left at 10:25 p.m. I'm putting the time at 10:25 p.m. This is me completely just making. I'm reaching a little bit here because this car that pulls in at 10:25 p.m. it pulls in from this way, which is you have to pass by the apartments to get there, and the apartments have cameras. So if the apartments would comply, and give their footage, then we could see which car this is. And then also, if there's anything going on with the gazebo, which is on the left over here, it's on the left over here. There's a gazebo, and then there's the tree right there, and then there's the fountain right here, and then this car just pulls in from the left, stops. There's someone running there, and then in the next clip, someone gets out of that vehicle, it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
See, there's a vehicle, and then someone gets out of that vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm trying to get this for the fams. Trying to show you guys as fams. Then there's someone walking towards the park at 10:25 p.m. That's where
walking into
the
the center of the park, not even running.
That's where I would. No, he was walking towards the center. So that's where I would be focusing my energy if I was to share the department with so many resources to be able to fucking
just demand all this footage. Yeah.
So I mean, my conclusion of this is basically the sheriff department should have gotten the footage from the apartments, that sketchy business, in the photography store, which is the 3 cameras that we saw. I don't think the church had any cameras. Instead, the only store that we were able to speak with says detectives came Monday after, which is the 15th. So, and the lynching happened on the 10th. So that's 5 days after the lynching.
Yep.
And then got that footage on a USB drive on the 19th, which is the day that we received the footage. And this is purposely neglectful on the part of the sheriff's department, and very suspicious, if you ask me. Having the resources they have and the time they have, if they really cared, they would have gotten the footage the next day instead of posting about a dog. We can see various cars enter the lot and then someone walking in the distance, and the times are really sketchy. So
yeah, I mean, it's all I think that footage is showing us what happened, but it's just so hard to tell with that type of footage, and also the angle too. It would really help if we could get the other footage. And let's talk about that for a minute. The police department investigating itself when they are the ones under investigation doesn't really seem right to me. Right? This is a situation where if I were an honest deputy, I would be like, okay, we might need to call the feds, or we might need to have somebody else outside our jurisdiction investigate this, because there might be people involved in our department, right? Like it's just I don't trust the police investigating this, because obviously they're not interested. Right off the bat, somebody should have said, hey, this isn't being investigated right. Let's call into somebody else that's outside of this to do the investigation.
They would never do that, fam.
But that's the thing. That's the proper protocol. But they seem to be covering it up and just dismissing it, insisting on the suicide. When clearly, I mean, if the guy did kill himself, somebody had to have seen it, right? We're looking at all these cars coming in and out, these people. Somebody had to have seen it, or somebody had to have seen something. Somebody out there.
Like, who
something.
called it in? That's the other thing.
That's another thing.
Release that audio, right? So
100%.
That's that segment, fam.
Yeah. I mean, and just to add to that segment, Johnny, I went the day you went to get that. I was in Palmdale as well, and I spoke to a young man. But let's just go back, because I want to tell you guys, Robert Fuller, his half-brother, was also shot and killed by the LA County Sheriff's deputies, and protesters, of course, are calling for justice too. And this is even weirder, because that was Wednesday when you guys went, and that was when you guys went. That happened at 4 p.m. while you guys were still there.
That's right.
But it was 20 minutes away.
Yes.
About
in
where
Rosemont.
Rosemont, exactly.
Which was even more north. It was actually outside the jurisdiction of the LA Sheriff's County.
Exactly.
And they're the ones that did the killing.
And they're the ones that did the investigation too. So why were they investigating outside of their jurisdiction? We don't know. Exactly. Why were they investigating killing? So reportedly, Another woman that was there was shot in the chest, and a child that was there witnessed the whole thing. So this is what happened. NBC Los Angeles had a quick report on it. Sources said several days ago, a woman called 911 and said she had been held against her will by Boone, Robert Fuller's half-brother, in an apartment where he allegedly demanded information about Fuller's death. The woman escaped and reported the incident to the sheriff's department, which resulted in criminal charges filed Tuesday. So we're looking at a woman accusing him of holding her hostage. By Tuesday, they had already filed charges against the guy. We're not even getting people fired in time after they murder people. But by Tuesday, they were able to file charges against this guy, right? Which to me is like a little. How do you file charges at someone without like arresting them? Like they had to have gotten a warrant. But that is very quick to me. It seems like it's very, very quick to me. And his name was Tehran Jamal Boone, and he has the same mother as Fuller. And they charged him with assault with a deadly weapon, false imprisonment, and domestic violence and criminal threats. This is according to the LA Superior Court records. And he was killed by the deputies during the shooting.
Yeah, and they shot a bunch of times. You want to hear that real quick, fam?
Yeah.
Gunfire and breaking news now at 11 o'clock. A deadly shootout with a kidnapping suspect, and that suspect is related to Robert Fuller. He's the man found hanging from a tree in Palmdale. Good evening. I'm Chuck Henry.
Yeah, so I just want to say now, because this turns into something else. This is where I'd really be like, where the hell is the FBI? Because now you have the half-brother of Robert Fuller also being shot by police. You have people blaming police for Robert Fuller's murder, saying that there's racist connections between the police and some white supremacist groups in the area. And you have this guy that seems to have been like completely persecuted and shot. And they followed him for a while and attempted to do a traffic stop on him, right? When he stopped his vehicle, he opened the door and reportedly he began shooting at the deputies, and a deputy involved shooting occurred. He was struck several times in his upper body and pronounced dead at the scene. And the woman in the SUV was also wounded, and there was a 7-year-old girl in the vehicle who was not injured. Okay. The driver is his sister and the girl is her daughter. So that was them. And this is insane that we are seeing the police investigate themselves. It just, at this point, I don't trust anything that's going to come from the LA Sheriff's Department, because they're obviously involved in some way. I mean, at the very least, they can't be investigating Robert Fuller if now there's a situation with his half brother. And what if he knew something? What if he knew something and then they shot him? I mean, he was trying to investigate the murder of his brother. So in trying to investigate that, because that report from that woman that was apparently allegedly held hostage is also weird. It's also weird. I mean, this is all, I don't know. What do you think, fam?
It is weird, fam, and I don't know. I've seen some footage that showed that shooting. It's kind of like, I don't know, they ambushed him and like...
Right.
I'm trying to find it right now.
So, yeah, so also, like, why is the LAPD or the LA Sheriff's Department doing anything? That's out of their jurisdiction, right? Like,
that should have been, that should have been another county. That should have been another county.
Yeah.
Whatever county that is.
Yeah, I forget what county it is. It might be Riverside. Antelope members of the Antelope Valley community, of course, then went the following day demanding greater accountability from the sheriff's department after 2 black men now were shot by deputies in the past week, one of them being the half brother of Robert Fuller, who was found hung in Palmdale. And they were investigating, of course, the brother, and the surveillance team was working to apprehend Boone when he was spotted in the passenger seat of a blue SUV. So, yeah, they pulled him over, and then how do you go from a pullover to a shootout? I don't know, but I spoke to a gentleman who was one of the people that was protesting, right? And they were right outside a group of black protesters and activists were there protesting because they feel like the media hasn't portrayed them favorably. They feel like they're not getting the attention they deserve because they're outside of the bigger part of LA. So like we said, Palmdale is like an hour away. And so they were, you know, they were saying that you're dealing with this systemic racism, and this is a really old problem. So I have a couple of clips from a video it's going to release by itself so you guys can watch it because it was a great interview. He talks a lot about what the problem is and how the media sees it. And at about 34 seconds, Jonny, he talks about, you know, why they're there and how the media is portraying them.
All right, let's listen.
And how would you say the racial tensions are in Lancaster and Palmdale area?
I would say that it's very high right now. We're looking to make sure that our bigger cities can back and get behind us a lot more, because when we are sitting here in pockets of isolation, and we know that we have some of the highest rates of incarceration here, and we have some of the highest rates of police brutality and mistreatment documented of any other city in LA County, then we want to make sure that we're not being forgotten because we don't have the media sources hubs here, or we don't have, you know, this is a military town, that type of crowd, the type of people that have the same coinciding belief systems that America was founded on, which was oppressive from its nature to black people, which is why we have such a high rate of this type of thing being produced. The media attention that we get a lot of times is manipulated in the wrong ways to be able to present a narrative that's great for the media because they need numbers and ratings. So what we need is the right media attention to promote the actual factual information of what's happening. When they push a certain specific narrative, it justifies the deaths of black people because they push a narrative that makes it look like we are the demons or that we are the monsters, so that when we are killed and when we are harmed, it's diluted and it almost makes it seem justifiable to the people that are onlooking but not experiencing it. So right now we need the correct type of media coverage. We need the type of media coverage that humanizes us and not dehumanizes us, so it does not give the room or the permission for our deaths to be acceptable.
Would you say that most of the protests have been peaceful? Because a lot of the mainstream media likes to say that there's violence, looting.
Yeah.
Would you say in your experience being on the ground that most of them are peaceful?
All of them have been peaceful. We haven't had any violent protests at all whatsoever so far. We don't move in foolishness. We're a very organized group here. And it's not to say that violence isn't necessary under certain circumstances. It's not to say that everything has its place. We live in a society that understands war as long as it's not within their own grounds. So we'll train and we'll organize things whenever we feel an attack upon our U.S. soil. We'll go out to war. We'll send our troops out. We'll rally them up. We'll say we're going to do what is necessary to prevent this from happening to us ever again, even if people have to die on the behalf of it. So we understand that, but for us, we get demonized when we say the exact same thing. Now that happens to not be our approach, but we're not downing anyone else who chooses that approach. It's just not the approach that we're taking.
Exactly. And I love the point he made about war, because we have zero problem going to war and being extremely violent as long as it's not here. The moment people here start protesting or doing something, and he's saying, I'm not going to tell people, because in protesting, sometimes there is a requirement of some sort of violence because sometimes you're not heard. But he's saying, the majority of these people are not engaging in that way. And the media, of course, is taking this into their own spin because, like he said, they need ratings. And at about 3:39, he starts talking about Robert Fuller and what his half brother and what happened with that. Your opinion of what happened last night? Robert Fuller's half brother was also shot in an altercation with police about 20 minutes from here.
Right.
What do you think about his interaction with police and how that affects your perspective on what happened with Robert Fuller himself?
So when someone is placed inside of a situation where you find your brother being hung and they cannot provide answers for you, but they rule it as a suicide, and your family speaks against it. And there is rumors of clans rallying in the same city in which you are living in. And the remnants of that racism is directly affecting and impacting your family. And you are approached by officers in unmarked vehicles. So they're not clearly stating who they are.
Right.
At which point I feel that is in itself an act of violence, being the state of the world that we can actually see and experience and feel day to day. So if you understand sociologically that the state of our people are in a state of being attacked, and specifically this family has now experienced the death in a very, very traumatic form, being reiterated over and over and over again, and ringing and echoing throughout the entire nation. So they don't have that safety or security, especially not coming from law enforcement. So when you're coming up to somebody in unmarked vehicles, meaning that this isn't a clear indication of who you are, there is no reason for me to believe that he didn't feel threatened under those circumstances. There's no reason for me to believe that he should feel safe or should not be in a position to want to defend himself, knowing with all given circumstances in that situation.
Exactly. That's what we kind of mentioned earlier. Like when police don't incite a safety, a mood of safety, a trust in us anymore, especially to somebody whose half brother they believe was murdered by somebody related to the police. So obviously he's not going to feel safe, and he's going to get defensive. And also the fact that he mentioned too, that I didn't mention before, that the police were in an unmarked vehicle, which to me is like,
when they pulled up on Robert Fuller's half brother.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Like, and so to me, it's like, I've always been told as a woman, like, if you get stopped by an unmarked vehicle, make sure they show you who they are, because it's happened before that women have been stopped by an unmarked vehicle and it's not been a cop and they've been raped, or it has been a cop and they've still been raped. I mean, there are reports of women being raped by law enforcement all the time, by the way. And so for me, like, if I see an unmarked police car, I'm a little suspect, and that's me. That I'm not, I haven't gone through the same trauma that somebody like Boone, Robert Fuller's half brother, has, especially right after they killed his brother, and all of this, especially the racial tensions. When I was in Palmdale, fam, I did feel like that racial divide when I was there. Like, it was definitely very clear to me. I have friends who have lived there for years who say that it is completely an area of a lot of racism and a lot of tension between the races, and between specifically the police and the minority community. And so I wouldn't be comfortable myself, let alone if I were a black man. So, yeah.
So here's some footage that someone released when his half brother got killed.
Talking about performing medical assistance.
How the fuck sheriff still ain't fucking made it yet?
I have no idea.
That's ridiculous, dude. Been here.
They don't even know what fucking street they were on. They don't even know what the main street is. Fuck.
Oh yeah, LA County
Now
sheriff.
they got LA County sheriffs here.
That's probably what.
Oh my god.
Straight up with the
What
guns.
the fuck?
Oh shit. Dude better bring whoever it is to come out. Oh damn, somebody over there was shot.
Where's she at? Was it an adult or a child?
I don't know, man.
We'll find out in a second. What the fuck? What the fuck?
What is this person doing right here?
Being
They
a
really
fucking
tryna-
stupid idiot! Get back inside!
Hey bro, you should get back in the window, man.
Get back in the window!
They not playing.
Why are there so many cops?
Oh, dude not coming off the car. I think they're not coming off the car.
Wow.
It's fine, babe.
Why are there so many?
Oh, close the window. Close the window.
The camera's staying right here.
Dude, even the people filming it are freaking out. Like, that's not how you should feel in the presence of law enforcement. They're supposed to be the law and order, right, Trump? Like, they're supposed to be, like, there to protect and serve. That's not what they're doing. They're inciting fear in people. I mean, that woman was freaking out. I mean, seeing the cops, even when we were at that bridge by the 101 when that happened, seeing that is traumatizing, because you're like, wow, they don't care. They don't care about these people's lives. They are so blinded by this authority and power that they're not even thinking of what they're doing. They're just acting on it. They're obedient. That's it. There's no rationale for morality anymore. It just goes out the window.
They're acting like a gang, and particularly the sheriff's department, it looks like. It's interesting. And why the fuck were there that many cops there? That was really...
In LA, and the sheriff, that was the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. All of a sudden, like, that's what I mean. Like, this isn't just isolated events. This is like, I think there's definitely a connection between...
It's almost like they wanted to be there.
Robert Fuller's murder, police, and his brother's murder. There's definitely a connection there. I'm going to go ahead and say that. I mean, obviously there's... I think there is some evidence to at least think that. But obviously it's hard to gather all the evidence when the police are pretty much making people feel like fearful. I don't know what they're doing. They could be telling people, don't talk to anybody, don't talk to the press. They usually do that anyway. But this is one of the moments where people need to speak to the press. Especially independent media, because we're not going to twist it and we're not going to frame it in any way. We're going to explain what happened, and then I'm going to tell you what I think it is. But like, we're not going to this is, I mean, you guys saw Johnny's footage. You guys saw like what this gentleman from there said, that there are rumors about this alliance between these certain groups. And people there, countless friends of mine have also said the same thing.
Not to mention that Tina interviewed somebody there who said that he saw somebody with a cursive P looking from a distance at the protesters the Saturday we went.
Right.
Which was Peckerwoods.
Right.
So, I don't know. And then the group like chased them off or something. So, I don't know. There's a lot there. And I don't know. These are scary times, fam.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not trusting at all of the police department right now. At all.
We need
answers.
Real reform is basically it.
Well, honestly. We need answers to this, and we need to defund the police 100%. I mean, I don't think there's room for reform, fam, at this point. This is, if the foundation you have is not, it's just, he talks about that later in that interview, which I will release. You guys need to watch it. If you started with something that's systemic, you can't just reform the top part, because the underlying issues are still going to be there. Same thing, like, you can't just expect to remove Trump and have everything fixed, because the underlying problems that elected him are still going to be there. So that goes back to systemic issues that we need to go after. The police are an arm of the oligarchy. They have to completely change the way they're structured. Everything has to change. This is unacceptable, the way they've conducted this investigation, or lack of investigation. And now we have another dead man, and then another dead man, and now another dead kid. I'm going to call him a kid.
All over the country.
I mean,
where declared suicides. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So, guys, we're going to leave you with that. Anything else, fam?
No, that's it.
Fam, thank you for staying up with us, staying late. Thank you for watching us. We really appreciate you. Remember, we're going to clip this up and release it, and you guys will be able to watch it. And then also, if you're a Patreon member or a member of our ROKFIN, you'll be able to go back and see the live stream. Please support us on Patreon. We're trying to really build that up and really get more of you in there, because YouTube takes literally all of our money. So if you have a couple of extra dollars, support us on Patreon. You could also endorse us on ROKFIN. And fans, will be live. We'll be covering as many things as possible as we can. And we'll have some updates on the rent situation, because believe me, there is an economic collapse absolutely happening. We haven't even begun seeing all of it. And I think that's going to exacerbate all these situations happening. So, all right, fans, thanks for watching. Convo out.
Peace.